Discworld is a comic fantasy book series written by the English author Terry Pratchett, set on the fictional Discworld, a flat disc balanced on the backs of 4 elephants which in turn stand on the back of a giant turtle, Great Achan. The books frequently parody or take inspiration from J.R.R. Tolkien, Robert E. Howard, H. P. Lovecraft, Charles Dickens, and William Shakespeare, as well as mythology, folklore and fairy tales, often using them for satirical parallels with current cultural, political and scientific issues. The series is popular, with more than 80 million books sold in 37 languages. 41 Discworld novels have been published. Pratchett, who suffered from Alzheimer's disease, said that he would be happy for his daughter Rihanna to continue the series when he is no longer able to do so. However, Rihanna has stated she will only be involved in spin-offs, adaptations and tie-ins, and that there will be no more novels. The original British editions of the first 26 novels, up to Thief of Time, had distinctive cover art by Josh Kirby. The American editions, published by HarperCollins, used their own cover art. Since Kirby's death in October 2001, the covers have been designed by Paul Kidby. Companion publications include 11 short stories, 4 popular science books, and a number of supplementary books and reference guides. In addition, the series has been adapted for graphic novels, for the theater, as computer and board games, as music inspired by the series, and repeatedly for television. Newly released Discworld books regularly top the Sunday Times bestsellers list, making Pratchett the UK's best-selling author in the 1990s. Discworld novels have also won awards such as the Prometheus Award and the Carnegie Medal. In the BBC's Big Read, 4 Discworld novels were in the top 100, and a total of 14 in the top 200. Composition. Very few of the Discworld novels have chapter divisions and instead feature interweaving storylines. Pratchett is quoted as saying that he just never got into the habit of chapters, later adding that, "I have to shove them in the putative J.R.R. books because my editor screams until I do." However, the first Discworld novel, The Color of Magic, was divided into books, as is Pyramids. Additionally, Going Postal and Making Money both have chapters, a prologue, an epilogue, and brief teases of what is to come in each chapter, in the style of A. A. Milne, Jules Verne and Jerome K. Jerome. Themes and motifs. The Discworld novels contain common themes and motifs that run through the series. Fantasy clichés are parodied in many of the novels, as of various subgenres of fantasy, such as fairy tales, witch and vampire stories and so on. Analogies of real-world issues, such as religion, business and politics, are recurring themes, as are music genres such as opera or rock music. Parodies of non-Discworld fiction also occur frequently, including Shakespeare, Beatrix Potter, and several movies. Major historical events, especially battles, are sometimes used as the basis for both trivial and key events in Discworld stories, as are trends in science, technology, and pop culture. There are also humanist themes in many of the Discworld novels, and a focus on critical thinking skills in the Witches and Tiffany Aching series. Storylines. Discworld stories stand alone as independent works set in the same fantasy universe. However, a number of novels and stories can be grouped together into grand story arcs dealing with a set number of characters and events, and some books refer to earlier events. The main threads within the Discworld series are: Rincewind. Rincewind was the first protagonist of Discworld, a wizard with no skill, no wizardly qualifications, and no interest in heroics. He is the archetypal coward but is constantly thrust into extremely dangerous adventures. In The Last Hero, he flatly states that he does not wish to join an expedition to explore over the edge of the disc, but, being fully geared appeared for the expedition at the time, clarifies by saying that any amount of protesting on his part is futile, as something will eventually occur that will bring him into the expedition anyway. As such, he not only constantly succeeds in staying alive, but also saves Discworld on several occasions, and has an instrumental role in the emergence of life on Roundworld. Other characters in the Rincewind story arc include Cohen the Barbarian, an aging hero of the old fantasy tradition, out of touch with the modern world and still fighting despite his advanced age. 2 Flower, a naive tourist from the Agathian Empire, and the Luggage, a magical, semi-sentient and exceptionally vicious multi-legged traveling accessory, made from sapient pearwood. Rincewind appeared in 8 Discworld novels as well as the 4 Science of Discworld supplementary books. Death appears in every novel except The Wee Freemen and Snuff, although sometimes with only a few lines. As dictated by tradition, he is a 7-foot-tall skeleton in a black robe who sits astride a pale horse. His dialogue is always depicted in small caps, and without quotation marks, as several characters state that Death's voice seems to arrive in their heads without actually passing through their ears as sound. As the anthropomorphic personification of Death, Death has the job of guiding souls onward from this world into the next. Over millennia in the role, he has developed a fascination with humanity, even going so far as to create a house for himself in his personal dimension. Characters that often appear with Death include his butler Albert, his granddaughter Susan Stohellert, the Death of Rats, the part of Death in charge of gathering the souls of rodents, quoth, a talking raven, and the auditors of reality, personifications of the orderly physical laws and the closest thing Death has to a nemesis. Death of Susan appear as the main characters in 5 Discworld novels. He also appears in the short stories Death and What Comes Next, Theatre of Cruelty, and Turntables of the Night. Death also appears in the non-Discworld novel Good Omens, written by Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. Witches in Pratchett's universe are largely stripped of the modern occultist associations, and act as herbalists, adjudicators and wise women. That is not to say that witches on the disc cannot use magic, they simply prefer not to, finding simple but cunningly applied psychology far more effective. The principal witch in the series is Granny Weatherwax, who at first glance seems to be a taciturn, bitter old crone. For the small mountain country of Lanka, she largely despises people but takes on the role of the healer and protector because no one else can do the job as well as she can. Her closest friend is Nanny Og, a jolly, personable witch with the common touch, who enjoys a smoke and a pint of beer, often leading to her singing bawdy folk songs including the notorious Hedgehog Song. The two take on apprentice witches, initially Margaret Garlock, then Agnes Snip, and then Tiffany Aching, who in turn go on to become accomplished witches in their own right, and, in Margaret's case, Queen of Lanka. Other characters in the Witches series include King Verence II of Lanka, a one-time fool, Jason Og, Nanny Og's eldest son and local blacksmith, Sean Og, Nanny's youngest son who serves as his country's entire army and civil service, and Nanny's murderous cat Grebo. The Witches have appeared in numerous Discworld books, but have featured as protagonists in 7. They have also appeared in the short story The Sea in Little Fishes. The stories frequently draw on ancient European folklore and fairy tales, as well as parody famous works of literature, particularly by Shakespeare. City Watch. The stories featuring the Ankh-Morpork City Watch are urban set, and frequently show the clashes that result when a traditional, magically run fantasy world such as the Disc comes into contact with modern technology and civilization. They revolve around the growth of the Ankh-Morpork Ankh-Morpork City Watch from a hopeless gang of 3 to a fully equipped and efficient police force. The stories are largely police procedurals, featuring crimes that have heavy political or societal overtones. The main character is Sam Vimes, a haggard, cynical, working-class street copper who, when we first meet him in Guards, is the drunken, alcoholic captain of the two-person night watch, lazy, cowardly, and none too bright Sergeant Fred Colin, and Corporal Nobby Nobbs, a petty thief in his own right. Then Carrot Iron Founderson, a 6-foot 6-inch tall dwarf by adoption, comes down from the mountains to join the watch and a real policing. The night watch manages to save the city from a dragon. We learn that Carrot is possibly the rightful heir to the throne of Ankh-Morpork, and the patrician decides to allow Vimes to create a real police force. Other main characters include Angua, a werewolf, Botrytis, a troll, Redshu, a zombie, and Dead Rights campaigner, Cuddy, a dwarf who appears in Men-at-Arms, Golem Constable Dorfl, Cheery Littlebottom, the Watch's forensics expert, who is one of the first dwarves to be openly female, Sam's wife, Lady Sybil Vimes, Constable Visit the Infidel with explanatory pamphlets, and Havelock Veterinary, the patrician of Ankh-Morpork. The City Watch have starred in 8 Discworld stories, and have cameoed in a number of others, including Making Money. The children's book was My Cow, and the short story Theatre of Cruelty. Pratchett stated on numerous occasions that the presence of the City Watch makes Ankh-Morpork stories problematic, as stories set in the city that do not directly involve Vimes and the Watch often require a Watch presence to maintain the story, at which point it becomes a Watch story by default. Wizards. The Wizards of the Unseen University have represented a strong thread through many of the Discworld novels, although the only books that they star in are exclusively of the Science of the Discworld series and the novels Unseen Academicals and The Last Continent. In the early books, the faculty of UU changed frequently, as rising to the top usually involved assassination. However, with the ascension of the bombastic Mustrum Ridcully to the position of Arch-Chancellor, the hierarchy has settled and characters have been given the chance to develop. The earlier books featuring the Wizards also frequently dealt with the possible invasion of the Discworld by the creatures from the dungeon dimensions, Lovecraftian monsters that hunger for the magic and potential of the Discworld. The Wizards of UU employ the traditional whiz-bang type of magic seen in Dungeons and Dragons games, but also investigate the rules and structure of magic in terms highly reminiscent of particle physics. Prominent members include Ponder Stibbons, a geeky young wizard, Hex, the Disc's first computer, semi-sentient thinking engine, the librarian, who was turned into an orangutan by magical accident, the dean, the bursar, the chair of indefinite studies, the lecturer in recent runes, and the senior wrangler. In later novels, Rincewind also joins the group, while the dean leaves to become the Arch-Chancellor of Brazenegg College in the nearby city of Pseudopolis. The Wizards have featured prominently in 9 Discworld books, as well as starred in the Science of Discworld series and the short story A Collegiate Casting Out of Devilish Devices. Tiffany Aching. Tiffany Aching is a young apprentice witch and star of a series of Discworld books aimed at young adults. Her stories often parallel mythic heroes' quests, but also deal with Tiffany's difficulties as a young girl maturing into a responsible woman. She is aided in her task by the NAC Macfeagle, a gang of blue-tattooed, 6-inch tall, hard-drinking, loud-mouthed pixie creatures also called the Wee Free Men, who serve as her guardians. Both Granny Weatherwax and Nanyog have also appeared in her stories. She has appeared in 5 novels. Major characters in this series include Mystique, who discovered Tiffany, Anagrama Hawken, Petulia Gristle, and NAC Macfeegle chieftain Rob Anybody. Moist von Lipwig. Moist von Lipwig is a professional criminal and con man to whom Havelock Veterinary gives a second chance after staging his execution. Recognizing the advantages his jack-of-all-trades abilities would have to the development of the city, after setting him in charge of the Ankh-Morpork post office in going postal, to good result. Veterinary ordered him to clear up the city's corrupt financial sector in making money. A third book, Raising Steam, published on the 7th of November 2013, features Lipwig's further exploits as a pioneer to the newly invented locomotive. Other characters in this series include Dora Beldearhart, Lipwig's acerbic, chain-smoking wife; Gladys, a golem who develops a strange crush on Lipwig; Stanley Howler, a mildly autistic young man who was raised by peas and becomes the disc's first stamp collector; and the very old junior postman Grote, who never got promoted to senior postman because there was never a postmaster alive long enough to do so. Discworld cultures. Several other books can be grouped together as other cultures of Discworld books. They may contain characters or locations from other arcs, typically not as protagonist or antagonist but as a supporting character or even a throwaway reference. These include pyramids, small gods, a monstrous regiment, characters, short descriptions of many of the notable characters, bibliography, novels, short stories. There are also a number of short stories by Pratchett based in the Discworld, including published miscellaneous such as the fictional game Origins of Thud. All are available in the anthology A Blink of the Screen as well as in the following locations: Trollbridge in After the King, stories in honor of J.R.R. Tolkien, reprinted in the Mammoth Book of Comic Fantasy edited by Mike Ashley, available online. Theatre of Cruelty, available online. The Sea and Little Fishes in Legends, anthology of novellas taking place within popular fantasy cycles, edited by Robert Silverberg. Death and What Comes Next, available online. The Collegiate Casting Out of Devilish Devices, available online. 7 of the short stories are short writings were also collected in a compilation of the majority of Pratchett's known short work named Once More Asterisk, with footnotes. Additionally, another short story, Turntables of the Night, is set in England but features death as a character. It is available online and in both anthologies. Maps. Although Terry Pratchett said, "There are no maps. You can't map a sense of humor." There are 4 maps. The Streets of Ankh-Morpork, the Discworld map, A Tourist Guide to Lanka, and Death's Domain. The first 2 were drawn by Stephen Player, based on plans by Pratchett and Stephen Briggs. The third is a collaboration between Briggs and Kidby, and the last is by Paul Kidby. All also contain booklets written by Pratchett and Briggs. Twin cities. Several Discworld locations have been twinned with real-world towns and cities. Wincanton in Somerset, UK, for example, is twinned with Ankh-Morpork, and the town is the first to name streets after the fictional equivalents. Science books. Pratchett also collaborated with Ian Stewart and Jack Cohen on 4 books, using the Discworld to illuminate popular science topics. Each book alternates chapters of a Discworld story and notes on real science related to it. The books are The Science of Discworld, The Science of Discworld 2, The Globe, The Science of Discworld 3, Darwin's Watch, The Science of Discworld IV, Judgment Day. Quiz books. David Langford has compiled 2 Discworld quiz books: The Unseen University Challenge, parodying the TV quiz show University Challenge; The Weirdest Link, parodying the TV quiz show The Weakest Link. Diaries. Most years see the release of a Discworld diary and Discworld calendar, both usually following a particular theme. The diaries feature background information about the themes. Some topics are later used in the series. The character of Miss Alice Band first appeared in the Assassin's Guild yearbook. For example, the Discworld Almanac, The Year of the Prawn, has a similar format and general contents to the diaries. Other books. Other Discworld publications include the Josh Kirby Discworld Portfolio, a collection of Josh Kirby's artwork, published by Paper Tiger; the Discworld Companion, an encyclopedia of Discworld information, compiled by Pratchett and Briggs. An updated version was released in 2003, titled The New Discworld Companion. A further updated version was released in 2012, titled Turtle Recall, The Discworld Companion. So far, the Discworld Portfolio, a collection of Paul Kidby's artwork, with notes by Pratchett. Nanny Ogg's Cookbook, a collection of Discworld recipes, combined with etiquette, language of flowers, etc., written by Pratchett with Stephen Briggs and Tina Hannon. The Art of Discworld, another collection of Paul Kidby's art. The Discworld Almanac, an almanac for the Discworld year in the style of the diaries and the cookbook, written by Pratchett with Bernard Pearson. Where's My Cow? A Discworld picture book referenced in Thud and Winter Smith, written by Pratchett with illustrations by Melvin Grant. The Unseen University cutout book, Build Your Own Unseen University, written by Pratchett with Alan Batley and Bernard Pearson, published the 1st of October 2006. Wit and Wisdom of Discworld, a collection of quotations from the series. The Folklore of Discworld, a collaboration with British folklorist Jacqueline Simpson, discussing the myths and folklore used in Discworld. The World of Pooh, another in-universe children's book, referenced in Snuff. The Complete Ankh-Morpork City Guide, the complete guide to the city of Ankh-Morpork. Mrs. Bradshaw's Handbook. The Discworld Atlas. Reading order. The books take place roughly in real time and the characters' ages change to reflect the passing of years. The meetings of various characters from different narrative threads indicate that all the main storylines take place around the same period of time. Thus, it could be seen that some of the separate books run concurrently rather than consecutively. The main exception to this rule is the standalone book Small Gods, which appears to take place at some point earlier than most of the other stories, though even this contains cameo appearances by Death and the Librarian. Some main characters may make cameo appearances in other books where they are not the primary focus. For example, City Watch members Carrot-Iron Founderson and Angua appear briefly in Going Postal, Making Money, and Unseen Academicals. A number of characters, such as members of staff of Unseen University and Lord Veterinary, appear prominently in many different storylines without having specific storylines of their own. Adaptations. Audiobooks. Most of Pratchett's novels have been released as audio cassette and CD audiobooks. Unabridged recordings of books 1 to 23 in the above list, except for books 3, 6 and 9, are read by Nigel Planer. Books 3 and 6 are read by Celia Imrie. Book 9 and most of the books from 24 onward are read by Stephen Briggs. Abridged versions are read by Tony Robinson. Fantastic Audio also recorded 2 Discworld novels, Thief of Time and Night Watch. Comic books. The Color of Magic, The Light, Fantastic Mort, and Guards, and Small Gods have been adapted into graphic novels, film and television, due in part to the complexity of the novels. Discworld has been difficult to adapt to film. Pratchett was fond of an anecdote of a producer attempting to pitch an adaptation of Mort in the early 1990s but was told to lose the death angle by U.S. backers. A list of adaptations include: Cosgrove Hall produced 6 by 30-minute animated adaptations of 2 books for Channel 4 in 1996. These were made available on DVD and VHS in the US from Acorn Media, though they are now out of print. Both series are available on a DVD box set in Region 2. Welcome to the Discworld, an 8-minute animated television adaptation of a fragment of Reaper Man filmed by Cosgrove Hall before the TV series. Soul Music, starring Christopher Lea's death, also featuring Neil Morrissey and Graham Crowden. First episode broadcast on the 18th of May 1997. The soundtrack to Soul Music was also released on CD. Weird Sisters, starring Christopher Lea's death, also featuring Annette Crosby, June Whitfield, Jane Horrocks and Les Dennis. First episode broadcast on the 28th of December 1998. Mort, a fan movie adaptation of the eponymous novel by Orange Cow Production, 26 minutes. Lords and Ladies, a fan movie adaptation of Lords and Ladies by Almost No Budget Films, was completed in Germany. Terry Pratchett's Hogfather. In the UK, Sky One commissioned a £6 million made-for-television adaptation of Hogfather with David Jason playing the role of Albert. It was first broadcast in December 2006 and features Terry Pratchett in a brief cameo role as the toy maker. Run Rincewind Run, a Snowgum Films original story created for Nullus Anxietas. Stars Troy Larkin as Rincewind, and features Terry Pratchett as himself. Terry Pratchett's The Color of Magic. David Jason played Rincewind. This adaptation aired in the UK over Easter 2008 and also features Terry Pratchett in a brief cameo role as an astrozoologist. Terry Pratchett's Going Postal, produced by Sky One. It stars Richard Coyle, David Suchet, Charles Dance, Claire Foy, Steve Pemberton, Andrew Sachs and Tamsin Greig. Terry Pratchett appears in a cameo role as a postman. Planned adaptations include Trollbridge. Australian group Snowgum Films is working on animated film as of 2016. The We Free Men. In January 2006, it was announced that Sam Raimi would direct an adaptation of The We Free Men for Sony Pictures. Terry Pratchett did not like the script. On the 1st of November 2013, Rihanna Pratchett announced on Twitter that she was adapting The We Free Men into a feature-length film. In 2016, Narrativia confirmed the film would be co-produced with the Jim Henson Company. The Watch. Pratchett's daughter, Rihanna, announced in August 2012 a new production company, Narrativia, and said it would produce a TV series based on the Ankh-Morpork City Watch. The show has not been released as of 2016. Radio. There have been several BBC radio adaptations of Discworld stories, including Eric, a 4-part dramatized adaptation began airing on BBC Radio 4 on the 6th of March 2013. Guards. 6 30-minute episodes, first broadcast in 2008, narrated by Martin Jarvis. Mort is 4 30-minute episodes, first broadcast in 2008, starring Anton Lesser and Jeffrey Whitehead. Night Watch 5 30-minute episodes, first broadcast in 2008, starring Ben Onwukwe and Philip Jackson. Small Gods. 4 30-minute episodes, first broadcast in 2008, starring Anton Lesser. Weird Sisters. 4 30-minute episodes, first broadcast in 2008, starring Sheila Hancock, Linda Barron and Deborah Berlin. Stage adaptations of Discworld novels have been performed on every continent in the world, including Antarctica. Stephen Briggs published stage adaptations of 18 Discworld novels. Most of them were first produced by the Studio Theatre Club in Abingdon, Oxfordshire. They include adaptations of The Truth, Masquerade, Mortis, Weird Sisters and Guards. Guards. Arana Brown published an adaptation of Lords and Ladies, a stage version of Eric, adapted by Scott Harrison and Lee Harris, was produced and performed by the Dreaming Theatre Company in July 2003 inside Clifford's Tower, the 700-year-old castle keep in York. It was revived in 2004 in a tour of England, along with Robert Rankin's The Anti-Pope. Small Gods was adapted for the stage by Ben Saunders and was performed in February 2011 at the Assembly Rooms Theatre, Durham by UK Productions and members of Durham Student Theatre. UK Productions also adapted then staged, in February 2013, Thief of Time, adapted by Tim Foster, and in February 2016, Soul Music, adapted by Imogen Edelston, both at the Assembly Rooms Theatre. A stage version of Monstrous Regiment was produced by Lifeline Theatre in Chicago, Illinois in June, July, and August 2014 with an adaptation written by one of Lifeline's ensemble members, Chris Hainsworth.